Have you ever thought there might be a real secret weapon against fear? Something that could completely change how you face challenges? Imagine discovering a technique so powerful that the very fear holding you back turns into a bridge to self-confidence. Today, I'm going to share that secret with you, a simple yet revolutionary tool that few people know about, one that unveils a courage you might not even realize you have. If you're tired of being held back by that voice, constantly asking, what if something goes wrong? Know that you can break free from this cycle of paralysis. Even better, this technique is scientifically backed, designed not only to lessen the grip of fear, but also to make you feel more grounded and confident in any situation. With this practice, you'll learn how to create a mental space of control where fear loses its power and you become the driver of your own choices. And the best part? By the end of this video, you'll see exactly how to use this technique during moments of anxiety, turning each encounter with fear into an opportunity for growth and self-assurance. Let's take this journey together to transform fear into a tool for strength and freedom. Fear, while often uncomfortable, is a natural and essential response, part of our body's built-in protection system. It's there to alert us to real dangers, like an internal alarm. But in some situations, this alarm becomes overactive, going off even when there's no actual threat. It's as if the body is stuck in a constant state of alert. The main player in this response is an area of the brain called the amygdala, which is known for regulating our most primitive emotions. When something feels threatening, the amygdala sends signals to prepare the body to fight or flee, increasing heart rate, causing sweating, and creating muscle tension. What science has shown is that there's a powerful way to retrain the amygdala to respond more calmly and with control in the face of specific fears. This approach is called exposure therapy, and it's widely supported by psychologists and institutions like the American Psychological Association and Michigan Medicine. Exposure therapy involves facing fear gradually in small steps. Each small exposure teaches the brain that this situation doesn't represent a real danger, which, in turn, reduces the intense panic responses. This process is known as habituation, a way the brain gradually becomes comfortable with what once triggered fear. The effect of this technique on the brain is both profound and measurable. Studies show that regular practice of gradual exposure strengthens the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for reasoning and emotional control, helping to balance out the amygdala's response. Each small step toward facing fear reinforces this balance, allowing the brain to react with more calm and confidence. This is why exposure therapy is so effective. It not only supports the practice itself, but also creates real, lasting changes that build our resilience, giving us the chance to transform fear into a source of self-assurance. Let's put this technique into practice in a way that's simple and accessible. The first step in overcoming fear is to recognize it and give it a specific name. Often, our fears seem massive because we've never really identified them clearly. They're just shadows looming in our minds. By naming your fear, you give it a face, which instantly reduces its impact. Maybe it's the fear of public speaking, heights, new environments, or even starting a conversation with someone unfamiliar. This act of recognition is like the first yes you give yourself, an acceptance that you're ready to face this challenge calmly and intentionally. How about taking a moment to choose a specific fear now? It'll make this journey more concrete and personal. Now that you know what the fear is, it's time to break it down into small, manageable steps that feel safe and comfortable for you. This is one of the most important keys. Start slowly, in a way that feels genuinely approachable. For instance, if your fear is public speaking, try starting by reading a short text aloud to yourself. It might sound simple, but here's the thing. These small actions help your brain get used to the experience, easing panic and building confidence. From there, keep going, but always at a pace that feels right. Once you find that reading alone doesn't trigger as much anxiety, try reading to someone you trust, like a supportive friend or family member. This gradual exposure creates what we call desensitization, Your brain starts recognizing that the situation is safe and no longer needs to sound the alarm. Building up the challenge gradually. As you practice and feel more confident, you can expand the settings where you expose yourself to this fear. How about reading to a small group or joining a meeting where you share a simple opinion? The idea is to keep progressing in small steps. The trick here is repetition, as it allows your brain to process the situation more calmly and naturally each time. With each new level, your comfort and confidence grow, and that fear that once felt insurmountable begins to lose its grip. This gradual exposure process is like strengthening a muscle. The more you practice, the stronger it becomes, and fear starts making room for self-confidence. To make things easier, you might want to choose a safe space for each practice, like your home or the company of a trusted friend. Remember, it doesn't have to be a long exposure. Rather, something repeated until you feel more at ease. Here's a helpful tip. Record each step in a journal or app, write down how you felt, the challenges, and each success. Each note is a reminder of how far you've come, even on tough days when progress seems slow. Looking back at how much you've grown boosts your confidence and keeps you motivated to keep going. Ultimately, this practice not only builds your confidence, but also strengthens your resilience, making you more capable of facing any situation. Let's take a look at Michael's story. He always had an intense fear of flying, a fear so limiting that he turned down important trips, missing out on both work and leisure opportunities. Every time he thought about boarding a plane, his heart would race, and he'd feel a surge of panic just picturing the takeoff. But determined to change, Michael decided to try a gradual exposure technique, believing he could reclaim his freedom. Michael's first step was to start with something simple. He began watching short videos about airplanes and travel from the comfort and safety of his home. Initially, he still felt uncomfortable, but over time, this small step became easier. Each time he watched a video, he felt the fear drift a little farther away, becoming more manageable. After that, he began visiting airports, just observing the environment and getting familiar with the idea of being there. He didn't need to board a plane just yet. He was simply creating a calmer relationship with the space and the elements he once associated with panic. Gradually, Michael moved on to the next step. He challenged himself to take a short flight with someone he trusted by his side. Despite his initial nerves, he noticed that all his earlier practice had paid off. He was calmer than he had expected. When the plane landed, he felt a wave of relief and, more importantly, immense pride for overcoming his fear. Today, Michael flies often, both for work and pleasure, and each flight serves as a reminder that he's taken back control. This process of gradual exposure showed him that facing fear is achievable, and that with patience and practice, he could broaden his horizons and regain the freedom to embrace new experiences. Overcoming fear is a transformative journey, and like any journey, it requires one step after another with consistency. Think of this process as a gift you're giving yourself, a form of self-care that makes room for your courage to grow. How about creating a small ritual as part of your routine? Pick a time that works well for you, whether it's morning or evening, to focus on this practice. Picture spending 5 minutes in the morning to set your goals for the day, or taking a few minutes before bed to reflect on what you learned and how you felt. These moments of dedication, however small, build a steady path to self-confidence. Tracking your progress is a powerful way to see how far you've come and to appreciate each step you've taken. Try keeping a journal where you can jot down every practice, feeling, and breakthrough. If writing isn't your thing, maybe make a few notes in an app. Some people even find it helpful to record voice notes they can listen to later, which can be deeply motivating. Revisiting these entries helps remind us that growth is happening, and on tougher days, it serves as an anchor to keep us grounded in our own strength. Every little victory recorded is real proof that you can face your fears. Having a support network also makes a world of difference. Share this journey with someone who understands and encourages your goals. It could be a close friend, family member, or even a group of people who, like you, are working through their fears. Talking about what you're experiencing, receiving positive feedback, and hearing others' stories brings a feeling of belonging, reminding us that we're never alone in this process. Each time you share a victory, you're strengthening your journey and inspiring those around you. After all, fear feels lighter when we share the load with those who support us. Finally, remember, every small effort counts, and this daily practice will lead you to a place of greater confidence and freedom than you might imagine. And on days when things feel a bit harder, allow yourself a break. You're creating real, lasting change, one step at a time, and that deserves to be acknowledged with kindness. Now that we've explored together how gradual exposure can turn fear into a source of strength and confidence, here's the question: what will be your first step? This technique goes beyond just being a practice. It's an opportunity to live with more freedom, unburdened by fears that hold back your choices and actions. Each step you take toward overcoming fear is a move toward a fuller life, one without restraints, where you're truly the author of your own path. So, here's my special invitation. Choose one specific fear, any fear, and try applying what we've learned today. It doesn't need to be a big leap. Start small, but start now. Facing challenges with self-confidence is a skill we can all develop, and you deserve to feel that sense of security and inner peace. And if you feel comfortable, share in the comments which fear you're looking to face or how you're already working on it. It's always inspiring to see each person on their own journey, and your experiences can encourage many others to take their first steps too. If you enjoyed this content and want to learn more about self-development techniques, be sure to check out the other videos on this channel. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay updated whenever we post new tips and tools to help transform your well-being. Together, we're building a community of support and growth, and every comment and view is a reminder that no one is alone on this journey. Let's move forward together toward a more confident, liberated life, free from the limits that fear once imposed.